What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Jab Sports with Josh. We've got our man Dale with us. We're going to be talking about UFC 182, the results there, key you in on a lot of stuff going there, what we want to see next, and just kind of cover a lot of highlights there. Now, one of the key things that we wanted to talk about was the finale of Fox Sports 1 that had Cody Garbrandt versus Marcus Brimage on there. And Cody Garbrandt is a young and upcoming fighter. Dale and I were talking. He's coming out of Team Alpha Male in California. And we're going to talk about a few things that we saw there. Dale, what was your take first and foremost on the fight there with Marcus Brimage and Cody Garbrandt?
He's lights out. Okay, the guy can stand up, he can wrestle, he can do everything else. What impressed me the most is he comes with a 32-1 amateur boxing record. The guy he came out. What really impressed me was his left his short left hook that he would throw.
Nice
the combinations, yeah, it was nice. I mean, the guy hit him. Guy kept hitting him, kept on going, and he kept the fight standing, which was I think that's going to be his strength. Even though he can wrestle, I'm not sure how he is off his back yet because he's untested. I think he's 6-0 right now. So I mean, he's got a big future ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things I saw there. The guy's definitely talented. I think this is the second fight of his I've seen. I went back, I watched the weigh-ins. He looked a little timid, but he's also young. I think working out there with those guys, I think he's going to build a lot of confidence in the future. And fighting guys like Brimage, it's going to do nothing but, I think, just build his confidence up as he starts knocking down some of these guys. If there was a gatekeeper into top 20 status, I would say Marcus Brimage might be that guy. He just seems to, I don't know, he doesn't seem like he's ever really going to go anywhere. As much as I like the guy, I just don't see that going anywhere. And Cody Garbrandt looked really solid and scored the knockout in the third round. That was towards the end of the fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, towards I think there was about a minute left where he hit him with a right cross. I think he hit him right in the back of the ear, which started, and that was pretty much the end there. Brimage tried to get back up, tried to fight, but it was done. I think a couple hits on the right hook, it was over.
I think that was a nice solid fight. I think that was a good way to end the prelims there. To go into.
He's 23 years old. I mean, he's his first UFC fight, and he's impressive. The only problem is he's coming from Team Alpha Male, where you've got Uriah Faber, you've got T.J. Dillashaw. Yeah. It's stacked. So I mean, the future's bright for him right now. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I think he takes a couple more fights until he cracks the top 10.
I agree. I think so long as he keeps getting opponents like this, then it's only going to help him as he continues to mature as a fighter. And moving from the prelims on over to the main card, we had Hector Lombard fighting on the opening fight, and it was Josh Burkman. He came over. Where was he at? Because he used to be in the UFC, and then he went over
World Series fighting, I believe. He had an impressive win over John Fitch, who John Fitch is known for his submission defense, and he tapped him out, I believe in 11 seconds. I'm not exactly sure, but that's where he came. I think that's where his last fight was, and his last time he was in the UFC was UFC 92, I believe.
So it's been a while.
Yep, he's a journeyman for sure.
Yeah.
He came back in. He said he was a different fighter, which what impressed me was he actually took the fight to Lombard. You don't see too many guys going at him, and I think at the beginning of the round one, Lombard was Burkman definitely earned his respect because he just came out swinging.
It made Lombard hesitant to get off. I mean, Lombard, he's been pacing himself, right? Because he had been gassing himself out, and that was kind of the issue. So he's been pacing himself, and I think that was his plan, was to kind of pace himself and then go off on him, but Burkman was pulling off the crazy stuff where he was pushing off the cage as he got back and doing Superman punches like that. So I think
it was awkward. Definitely awkward. His awkward angles. I don't think he expected him just to rush at him or do any of the things that happened. I think Lombard kind of took him for granted on this one. Thought he was going to have an easy fight and just couldn't get off. He couldn't establish any kind of his game. But what I think hurt Burkman was he felt Lombard's power. There's a couple shots when there's a bloody nose for Burkman, and that's where you kind of saw it just end for Burkman right then and there.
Yeah. I like Lombard a lot. I think he can be explosive. I think he's 35, 36 now. and it just looked like he wasn't sure whether he wanted to commit or not. There was a lot of lead right hooks, a lot of them. And as a guy who has been loving the way Lombard fights, top tier fighters, they're just going to shrug that off. And I think Lombard, I don't know, maybe it was just the opponent, like you said, he got his respect, but he's going to have to understand, facing top tier talent, he's going to be earning a lot of respect. From
he's a freak. The guy's a freak in 175 at welterweights.
He's a big guy.
I say give him either Woodley or Gastrom. Whoever wins that fight, that's going to be, I think, the next upcoming on the upcoming card.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great fight, and I think that's going to be another topic we're going to cover in another video as we talk about some upcoming fights. But for now, let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to skip over on a couple fights because they weren't particularly standing out to me, but one of the fights that I wanted to kind of touch on very briefly, because this was a boring fight for me, was the Nate Marquardt fight. And the young guy he faced, I don't know, Marquardt, he went, and it's like when he faces lesser competition or just guys that he knows he can handle, the minute he stepped away from the UFC, he kind of returned to those earlier days when he was building up. And it seems like ever since he's come back, he's just been nothing but average.
I've never had to cut weight, so I'm not exactly sure what cutting 170 did to him, but I think this was his second fight back at 185. He's not the Marquardt of old when he fought for the title. Give credit where it's due to Brad Tavares, though. He showed some good leg kicks. He's got power in both fists, and the guy's got a good wrestling base. So, any kind of game plan that Nate would have had, I'm sure was nullified by the leg kicks, and he's just a steps too slow. I wouldn't even call Nate a gatekeeper at this point. I think, give him another fight, let him finish out his contract, and just let him go.
I think he's definitely a step below gatekeeper, and that's a shame. He really had a lot of talent early on. It's just he never took it to the next level. And I think there's a lot of fighters like that. He's just, some guys got it and some guys don't. And, Marquardt will continue to put on, the occasional good show, I think. It's just this definitely was not one of them for me.
Yeah, he's definitely a lesser fighter than what he was, But, hey, that's what comes with age.
Yep. Moving on to one of the fights I think you and I were most excited about. I think we're big Cowboy fans. We both are. Donald Cerrone fought Myles Jury. Now, there was a lot of trash talking from Myles Jury. I remember watching, in the pre-fight build-up, he was talking about how he makes good and great guys look silly. And, he fought Diego Sanchez in his last fight, but he beat him, and Diego Sanchez trains with Donald Cerrone. And I think Cerrone kind of took it personal, and I think we're going to get to that because the last part of that fight was pretty awesome to watch. But what were your takes on Cerrone versus Myles Jury?
I think Myles had a game plan to take him to the ground, and that was completely stopped by Cerrone's ground game. He took him. He executed the takedown, but then Cerrone got into his back, took his back, got him into a rear naked choke. Oh yeah, it was Cerrone's ground game is great. I don't think there is anybody. I don't think there's anybody that really can take him to the ground that's going to feel comfortable with him on the ground. Definitely on his back. Myles Jury, he's got a lot going for him. It's just I think this fight finally brought him down to earth. It was a little closer than I thought. I gave Myles Jury actually the second round.
I think one of the judges gave him one of the rounds. I think it was 29-27 on one, or 29-28 on one of the cards.
Yeah, I think the third judge had 29-28, but I think he was the busier fighter in the second round. But I think Cerrone wanted to engage. And
he Myles the whole time, it felt like. He was coming forward almost the entire fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and the third round really, the head kick, that's what did him in. He felt that power, he felt the kick to his head, and I think that's what just pretty much ended the fight for him. And then of course, the last second kicks down the ground. I think that was more of an FU to you for running around on me and talking trash about Diego Sanchez.
I think for those that didn't get to see it, and of course we can't run the highlights here, Myles Jury was on his back, and instead of letting him up, Donald Cerrone was standing above him, and it was like, like you're in 6th grade wanting to do kickball and just kick the hell out of the ball, right?
It was like a wind-up toy. You wind them up real to the right and just straight kick.
And it was fun to watch because you could tell Cerrone was just upset. He really wanted to fight. In his post-fight interview, he even said, he was upset at himself because he really wanted to fight. And he has higher standards for himself, I think, as far as performance goes. And he wasn't able to do that because Myles Jury, he might have been, he might have got that second round, but it was only due to because Cerrone was trying to push the action. Pretty much the first round, he, like you said, he had him on the ground for quite a bit. And then the second and third round, Cerrone really pushed the action and stuffed every takedown, and it was nice to watch. I remember it was just probably 2 or 3 years ago, Cerrone's wrestling, it was probably 3 years ago, wasn't that great. And he's worked so hard on it. There was a fight to where I know he got just out-wrestled. And it was probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I can't remember. But I remember watching that, and they're like, this is his biggest weakness. And that guy's gone out and absolutely tackled it. And now he couldn't even get the takedown. And when he did...
His two fights with Ben Henderson, I think Ben Henderson took him to the ground. And those are part of his losses. And then, Nick Diaz that kept it standing. But I think Cerrone's definitely matured in the last couple of years with this 6-fight win streak, and his game is starting to be. If it's not complete already, it's getting there.
Yeah, I think you touch on Diaz. That fight, he got too amped up. I don't want to take away from the 182 here, but that fight when he fought Diaz, he was so into the fight and so emotional and so amped up that he gassed in the first round of that fight. I think if they had a rematch, Cerrone wins that, and I think Diaz has fallen so far off.
All fighters definitely hit their stride. I think Nate Diaz was in his stride too, though. You can't take any credit away from him because his stand-up game is one of the best in light heavyweight too. There's not too many guys that would stand toe-to-toe with Nate Diaz, but Cerrone did. I would like to see a rematch, but I don't think a rematch would ever happen, especially with the hot streak that Cerrone's on right now.
Yep. And that was the co-main event. We're going to go ahead and move on to the main event, which had probably some of the best pre-fight hype build-up of a lot of fights in a long time since your man Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva a few years ago. This was probably the biggest built-up fights, to me, personally, since that fight. And I wish that it had lived up fully to that hype. It was a good championship fight. I just don't think it was a great championship fight. That's just my opinion. It was a good fight overall. You could pretty much tell by round 3, to me, who was winning the fight. And I think those first few rounds was Cormier's opportunity. But what were your thoughts on that?
All hype. I'm sorry to say I'm not a Jon Jones fan, but if you put him against anybody, that guy is massive. He's such a big guy. He just dwarfed Daniel Cormier when they met.
He made him look real tiny.
Cormier's he fought at heavyweights. This guy's an Olympian. He's a big guy. So you're already at a disadvantage of the fact that you had a 12-inch reach. His reach is so long. He's so big. He's 6'4". He's a light heavyweight. He's a freak. First round, he was getting a lot of leg kicks to what Jon Jones uses. The kicks into the knee with the heel and the front foot of his foot. I gave Cormier round 2. The uppercut started showing, and when he got hit, I think Daniel Cormier, his punches are so heavy that I thought he's from round 2 on he was going to start taking it. Round 3, I could have gone either way. At that point, Cormier did have have more strikes than Jon Jones by the tally.
They did show that, yeah.
Yeah, so he was out punching him. Whether they were more quality blows from Jon Jones or Cormier, that's at the discretion of the judges. But I could easily have given Cormier round 3. He was up. He could have been up 2 rounds to 1 at one point. But after round 3, when he went back to his corner and
he was tired.
Burkman was like, I need more for you. And he said, I'm trying. I kind of had the feeling right then and there that it was over. And then round 4, Jon Jones just took him down. And it wasn't just a takedown. It was a takedown to show you, I'm more dominant than you. Yeah, this is how it started. That's how the whole trash talk started. Was I could take you down. Oh, he did. And he took him down. He took him down hard. He took him down bad. made Cormier look like a little kid.
I think the problem there, like, I think one of the things that I started noticing as the fight went on, because like you said, Jones was the bigger fighter, a lot of times in the clinch, the only way that Cormier could clinch and get any type of leverage or anything was for him to stand up more, where Jones was able to kind of bend over and get a little bit more leverage. Because early on, like you said, those uppercuts, when they were in the clinch, you could tell Jon Jones didn't like them. And he was trying to get away from that. And Jon Jones, again, great fighter. I'm not going to take anything away from him, right? But the man does not like to take a punch. That's just my perspective.
He's got the Brock Lesnar effect. Looked like Brock Lesnar when Count Carl was hitting him with those haymakers.
Yeah. I think if somebody matches up, I think Gustafsson came the closest. And I think if that rematch happens, Gustafsson might take it and has a little bit better chances going forward. But the problem is that, like you said, there's nobody really that matches up size-wise with Jon Jones.
And you think about it, Daniel Cormier had to, he had to carry his weight for the first 3 rounds, and they're not fighting at 205 at that point. So you've got a 6'4" guy. Probably, I don't know what his weight was during the fight, but he probably had another 15, 20 pounds on top of that. And the clinch. What I noticed too was Jon Jones controlled the cage. He controlled Cormier against the cage. So that's a lot of weight that you're holding on to him. He held his wrist down. He nullified his jab, his uppercuts around the 3rd and 4th rounds. So you didn't see too many of that. I thought Cormier had the best chance when he made it a dogfight. It was evident. It was obvious that Cormier wasn't going to take Jon Jones down, and that was the big surprise for me. The one thing I would like to note about Jones is what he's great at, and why I think he's great is that he takes the fight. He takes the opponent's fight to them. Just like how Chael Sonnen, he rushes against his opponents, and Jon Jones rushed him and out-wrestled him. Lyoto Machida, the stand-up game. You have Teixeira. Everybody said all Teixeira had to do was touch his chin, and that was lights out.
Fight in close, and Jon Jones
not even close,
and close in that fight. The entire fight, he fought in close and dominated.
Yeah. And Jon Jones took the wrestling away. And that's what I think what makes him great is that he's such a complete fighter at this stage that whatever you're best at, he's going to try to outdo you in, and he's going to try to embarrass you in. And but hats off to Cormier. The problem is with him, I think he's getting older now. I think this might have been his last real shot. His buddy Cain Velasquez is the champion in heavyweight. I don't think he has too many avenues to go. 185 is too much to cut for him. So, hopefully he gets back on track, though.
35, 36 years old now. I mean, there's not a whole lot of elite years left, and he's pretty much on the tail end. And I think that might have been one of the things why he was pushing so hard for that fight is that he really wanted to, get it in while he still had, I guess, what years left he had on his prime. And the thing with the heavyweights, most heavyweights tend to mature more towards their later years and 30 years and on. Whereas 205, you see a lot of younger guys, and that's kind of, the changing of the guard there is there's a lot younger fighters, I think, now, where you see Jon Jones, all the guys that he's beating, Glover, Teixeira, Lyoto Machida, all these guys, Rampage, and now Daniel Cormier, all these guys, and I'm not taking anything away from Jon Jones because, like you said, he's taking their fight and using it against them, but he's fighting guys that 34, 35, 36 years old, these guys at 205, and especially these guys that are cutting the weight, I'm just not sure if it's holding up as well. And that's why I think a guy like Gustafsson, or even, now this is my next, I don't want to get ahead of where we might be going. Anthony Johnson, I'm just saying it. That guy, he stays out of trouble. I love Anthony Johnson. That guy, after his last fight against Nogueira, I'm just saying, watch out. I'm gonna stay back. I'm not gonna get ahead of myself.
Well, he's definitely found his home at 205. The he's a monster there.
At 170.
Yeah,
how
exactly. Well, obviously he didn't. He got kicked out of the UFC for that. But I'll tell you what, he's gone through the 205 ranked and he's gone there fast. But one thing I'd like to touch on. You think about it, though. If Jon Jones wasn't in this division, you'd have Rampage with the belt. Rashad Evans would have had the belt. Lyoto Machida would have had the belt. There's not a more impressive resume than Jon Jones. He's beaten how many champions of the light heavyweight You know, then these guys are still in their prime, and when he fought him. So I mean, you know, I can't take it away from Jon Jones. I dislike the guy. I think he's too cocky, even though he says he's confident. But there's nobody at 205 that can beat him, in my opinion. I have to disagree with you with Gustafsson. You know, I think Gustafsson's best shot was that fight, but I could be wrong. You know, again, they both match up in size. Gustafsson was the first guy to ever take him down. He tweeted that he wasn't too impressed with his last fight, so it'll be interesting. But Alexander's got to get past Anthony Rumble Johnson. That's the fight I want to see.
Whoever wins that fight, I'm all for. Like, I'm almost torn. I like both of those fighters so much that I'm torn on who I want to win that fight. Although whoever wins that fight, I'm excited that they're going to fight Jon Jones next.
Who?
I'm sorry?
Me too, definitely.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. So, real quick to wrap up UFC 182, and we're going to go ahead. You guys, for those of you that are watching, make sure and subscribe, because we're going to do a lot more commentary. Jab Sports, we're going to be covering a lot of sports. Dale is kind of our MMA guru here. This guy follows it day in and day out, so make sure and check him out. Also, check us out on Twitter. The handles are there below our picture, so check that out. If you like what you heard, feel free and hit that like button. We're going to go ahead and roll this in. Before Donald Cerrone left Las Vegas, he said one thing. He wanted another fight. Who did he get?
Benson Henderson, 2 weeks after he beat up Myles Jury.
Who does that?
Nobody. He's a once-in-a-lifetime fighter, man. And, you know, I'm sorry, Chael Sonnen to do it, too. I know you hate that guy.
I know you're a Chael fan. You know I'm not. We'll stay off that. I'm just glad he's retired.
Whatever, dude.
We'll touch on that at another time. But you guys, like I said, stick around. We're going to be doing a lot more videos coming up, covering all your MMA, NBA, NFL. Dale, once MLB starts hitting, he's going to start covering a lot of baseball topics. So make sure and check him out. We're going to be covering all things sports, folks. So stick around. Dale, you got any closing words on UFC 182 or anything that you're looking forward to coming soon?
I'm sorry, 4.5 out of 10. That definitely wasn't one of the better ones. All decisions. No knockouts, no flair. Cerrone is probably my favorite guy, but hey, that's in the wrap.
UFC Fight Night coming up in a week and a half. Conor McGregor, there's a lot of good fights on there, so I'm really looking forward to that one. My man Uriah Hall is going to be on there. I was checking the fight card, and I'm really excited to see that fight. But we'll go into some previews, folks, coming up soon, so make sure and stick around. Check out all that's coming up. So thank you all for watching at Jab Sports. This is Josh and Dale signing off. Peace.